Hey everyone, it's Tim from Linessa Farms Specialty and Heirloom Livestock. Thanks for joining us again today. Hope everyone's doing well. We have been busy the past, month. We've been doing a lot of traveling, a lot of farm interviews. That's the reason that we haven't had our live stream is we've actually been out of the area. I was in North and Central Texas over the last few weeks, visiting some farms, getting some interviews out of the way, picking up some livestock, bringing them back here to Indiana. Plus, we've had our lambing and kidding going on. We are almost done with lambing and kidding for the year, I think. We've got about 3 more to go, but we've been having lots and lots of babies, lots and lots of questions. So tonight is just going to be open forum. If you have questions, comments, concerns, please let us know. Just to kind of give you an idea of what we have coming up. We've got quite a bit coming up. We went out to Texas, hit a couple bigger farms. We went out and saw Aaron Jennings. We are going to have a multi-segmented interview with him. He's got about 2,000 acres going on out there, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of sheep and goats, and everything from Dorpers to dairy goats to exotic animals from Africa. He's got buffalo. It was really something to take it all in. We also had visited our friends Chris Kreider on his farm and talked with him and his wife Erin about some of their Dorper cross. We just posted a brief segment of an interview with him. If you haven't checked that out yet, please do. And we actually did a hog butcher with our friend Johnny Andre. So we will be posting that at some point too. We're going to stick obviously to our nuts and bolts stuff that you guys watch us for, which is our sheep and goat videos, but we're also going to start branching out just a little, not a lot. So don't freak out. We're just going to do a few other interesting things that may involve you and your homestead or you and your small farm. We're going to go to a border collie training facility in the next few weeks. We are going to go to go visit a couple of ladies that actually process goat milk products. So they make soaps and all kinds of other candles and all kinds of other stuff. We're going to go visit with them. So just kind of, some extra stuff to kind of fill you guys in on what is going on. So I'm going to hop on here right now. If you have questions, please let me know. I see everyone says hello. My friends, the Kindigs from San Diego. Hope everything's going well. Bakers on a few acres. Hello, Joaquin. Hello, my friend Christine. Shob, nice to see you, my friend. I hope you're doing good. Cheryl. Hi, Cheryl. Hope you're doing well. Baker, coffee maker. Would I ever do cow videos? Yeah, I would do cow videos. I don't know. I'm a little bit more hesitant to do cow videos than I am sheep and goat videos because I don't know as much about cows. But we do have a few miniature Herefords here on the farm. We also have our mini panda cow, Pokey. So if you've never seen a panda cow, they are quite interesting. It's a belted Galloway that they cross with a miniature Hereford, and they're getting this unique coloring. And finally, we were able to purchase one. So basically, he's a black cow with a white stripe around his belly, a white head, and then he's got black circles around his eyes. So he literally looks like a panda bear. And his name is Pokey. Sometimes I forget we have him, but he hangs out there. We've got 2 miniature Herefords, registered miniature Herefords, and then we've got a miniature Hereford female that was born last year, and we're hoping we get some more videos coming out. We have a good friend, Dave Dixon. Dave raises and shows nationally with mini Herefords. I think he would be a great person to go talk to. We also have our friend Mark Castaldo. Mark has a very large Angus cattle operation that he does as well. So yeah, absolutely, we can reach out and get some cattle videos done for you guys. We're hoping to get some more registered boar goat folks on board to do some boar goat videos as well. I know sometimes those of you that are into goats probably feel like we're skipping out on you a little bit. We're not trying to. I've had a harder time getting goat people to talk to me than I have sheep people for whatever reason. So but we're getting more and more people reaching out to us and requesting. We did a goat video. It's kind of funny. I had reached out to some goat people maybe 3 months ago, and I said, hey, I'd like to come out to your farm and interview you. And a lot of people said no. And Larry Lorenz said, yeah, sure, come on out. Well, shoot, since Larry did the interview with us, he's had about 12,000 views in the last month and a half to 2 months. He's got people calling him, everything else. Well, now all of a sudden we have other people that are wanting us to come. It's amazing how that happens, that are wanting us to come out and do interviews with them. So it's should be interesting. Love the smell of the cranberry powder, the green apple. Yeah, that is really some heavy duty stuff. So basically, what's the deal with the cranberry powder? We wanted to get a feed additive that wasn't like full of chemicals and other stuff that you could simply just add it to 50 pounds of feed and mix it up. And so we reached out to a company that actually manufactures animal feed products for the big box people, and we got them to manufacture a feed flavoring for us, and it's green apple. And yeah, it'll like stink up your house, not in a bad way, but it is extremely strong, and it's very inexpensive. So it works out really well when you have some feed and um, you really want to get your animals to go after their feed. It can help with that. Doesn't have a lot of additives, doesn't have anything extra as far as anything that's either going to add to or take away. It's just simply for feed. So very cool. We really like it. We've been sending out some free sample packs, and we've noticed that people have been reordering. So I think it's going to work well for people. All right, starting to get my baby Nigerian dwarf. Awesome. Glad to hear that. So good luck. April is a good time frame to get animals. We get asked a lot. I was talking to Jeff Hunter the other day. I was visiting with Jeff, and Jeff said, I think they should pass a law that says you can't get more than like a handful of animals if you're very first just getting started. And of course, he says that tongue in cheek, and we want people to feel empowered to get animals and be able to take care of them. And we know that it can be overwhelming, but sometimes we do see people that they go out, they've never had any before, and then they go and get 30. And it can be overwhelming. So when you're looking at getting livestock, I still think it's going to slow you down slightly, but I still think getting especially if you're going to want to get into breeding, I would say, get 2 to 3 females and a male. Maybe get them to where they're younger, but good stock. They've come from a good farm, and get them. Get them in the springtime, raise them all summer, breed them in the fall, and kind of go through one full session of the whole 9 yards. Of watching them grow, seeing how they grow, breeding, pregnancy, lambing or kidding, lactation, weaning, the whole 9 yards. After you're done with one season, then kind of sit down and say, okay, did I enjoy this? Is this something that I want to do? And go from there. If you start yourself off with something that's going to be overwhelming for you, and if you start yourself off with something that, is going to, you're not going to have a good time, then that's not good for anybody. You're going to be miserable. The animals are going to be miserable, and it can cause a lot of problems. We've talked about this before. I am not of the mindset that I think you necessarily need to go out there and buy the most expensive livestock that's available. I don't think that that's necessarily true, but I do think that you need to get something that comes from a good, reputable person. And it may cost you a little bit more than something maybe junky or something that has some problems that you may pick up at the sale barn, or from someone that you don't know. Fill in the blanks. It's very important for you to watch out for people that are trying to scam you. It's very important that you get out to these farms, talk to the individuals that are raising the animals, get a good look at them. If you can, get a good look at the parents. We've got an upcoming video that I am making in the next few weeks, and that is going to talk about, actually, it's going to be out in the next few days. I don't know why I said the next few weeks. In the next few days, we're going to be talking about dappling in goats. So for those of you that don't know what dappling is kind of a cool, I wouldn't necessarily say it's a trendy thing, but it is in certain areas of the United States. It's lots of different colors, maybe polka dotted looking goats, if you've seen those before, or some that get some pretty neat looking tiger stripes on them. And people spend a lot of money on these unique colored goats. The reason that we're making the video is is because a lot of people don't understand that the coloring in goats is very, very complicated. It's very polygenic. That is to say, there's lots and lots of genes that are involved when it comes to coloring. And so the danger that you fall into that you need to know about and that you may not know about is just because let's say you decided, you want a goat that has a very unique color to it. You want it to have polka dots or these tiger stripes or whatever. It may be enticing to you to just go out and find a polka dotted goat, a male or a female, and bring them back to your farm. And you may assume that just because you breed them, it means their babies are going to have that color. And that is absolutely not true at all. Dappling is so complex and so complicated that honestly, and I may get beat up on this, and that's okay. Actually, I'm not going to get, the only people that would have a fit about me saying this are the people selling the dappled boar goats. But the reality is the only way to really know for sure that you're going to get that dappling or that unique color is to get a animal that has already had babies, and see what they're going to have. Otherwise, you are truly rolling the dice. And I can put my money where my mouth is because we have lots and lots of different breeds of goats here. We have lots and lots of different color goats. I have been breeding different colors together for years now. Also, I've been reading the literature, and you can read the literature too. You can read the scientific literature on it. And I've seen some very unique things. We have some dappled mothers that always have dappled babies. It doesn't matter if I breed them on a traditional colored goat or whatever, they always have dappled babies. I have dappled mothers that never have a dappled baby. I can think of a couple off the top of my head. I'll give you one example. I have Joan is her name. Joan is a black, and so she's a black goat with white dappling. She has white spots on her. We have bred her on 3 different bucks now. 2 of which were dappled, 1 of which was not. Every single time, regardless, one was a black and tan and white dappled goat, one was a brown and black, all kinds of different colored dappled goat, one of them was more traditional. She has had a solid black baby every single time. And it seems that some breeds are more prone to specific coloring than others. So it seems like the dairy goats that are solid colors, for instance, if you're breeding a Saanen or if you're breeding an Oberhasli or something like that, they tend to carry more of a solid color, more so than maybe a boar goat or a Kiko or something. It seems like boars, Kikos, Nubians tend to spot up a little bit easier, and some of those dairy goat breeds do not spot up very well at all. So no exact science. And for the sheep folks out there that are listening, you can run into the same trick bag with sheep. We have had some very unique instances happen with sheep over the years. Some of you are wanting to get natural color sheep where you want them to, you want to get black sheep, things like that. You can get some weird colors there as well. Sheep coloration, as far as dominance and recessiveness, is a little bit easier to wrap your head around, but you can still get surprises in there. So marketing, market wool, or some ideas I've seen from others. So really, I think social media can be your friend when it comes to marketing wool. It is a lot of these things are social media driven. Coming from the guy that, believe it or not, I don't know how many years ago now, but we'll say, gosh, probably almost 10 years ago now. But before we started doing the social media thing, the YouTube channel and things like that, I did not do social media. I did not have a Facebook account. I did not have any of these things. And so all of this was kind of a learning process for me. I don't necessarily love social media. I think it has some negative side effects, and I think we can all agree with that. But like it or not, it does have some positive things. And the positivity that you can find on social media is that it can put you in touch with other like-minded individuals. It can be a good, healthy place to learn new, valuable information, share information with others, as long as the people that are moderating pages and things like that are actually cautious and put in the time to run a good site. As you guys know, we have Linessa Farms Tack Box, which myself, and a handful of other individuals run. So there's a few people that you see on the tack box all the time, and then there's a few people that are on the tack box as well that are kind of behind the scenes. Myself, Jamie is probably one of our biggest moderators that watches things on the tack box. She's very knowledgeable when it comes to animals. Let's see, Rick Adams is on there. He helps out a lot. We have Aaron Jennings that is on there. So there's a handful of us that really watch the site and keep things to the level that they need to be. If someone comes on and does something that they shouldn't do, we just get rid of them. So why am I going on this tirade about social media? If you're going to be dealing with specialized animals, it can benefit you, depending on the group, to get involved with online group. And so that can help you market, that can help you get the word out, things like that. We have our social media group, the Linessa Farms Tack Box. If you have wool and you want to try to coordinate with other individuals out there that are into wool, you can put a post on there. Our page is set up for you and to help you. So if you have something you're trying to, people that you're trying to group with, or something that you're trying to sell, or something you're looking for, you can most definitely post on there. Now, you can't post prices, because Facebook will have a fit if you post prices on there, but you can ask. There are some wool growers that are out there and people that specialize in that. I know, trying to think of Diane Squibb. She is an individual that follows our channel. She does a lot with wool. A lot of the other people that are getting involved with the Valet, they do. So there's people out there. The problem that you've ran into, or that we've ran into with wool over the years, is that it's no longer worth any money. So let me explain that. For years and years and years, for instance, when I was a kid in the 80s, when we were shearing, we would, the wool was subsidized by the federal government. So you were getting it sometimes up to a pound, $1 a pound. Now it's worth pennies per pound. So for a lot of us that don't raise good quality wool sheep, or don't keep them blanketed, and don't keep them necessarily as clean as they need to be, we pitch a lot of our wool. A lot of my wool off of my not so great wool sheep actually goes on the compost pile and gets composted. So that's my spiel for you. If you want to market anything that's specific, or if you want to really get in the deep weeds of specific breeds, I think it helps to talk to other individuals that are involved in that specific market. Good question. Thank you for that. Peter. Hi, Peter. Hi from Australia. Love your channel, and I've learned heaps. Thanks. You're very welcome. We're very excited that our group has a lot of people from all over the world. So it's very, very interesting to get different insights. And again, you get back into the, one size does not fit all. And you guys know this. And we've talked about this multiple times in the past. It's really, really important. It's very important for you to get lots and lots of different information from lots and lots of different sources. It's up to you to determine if those sources are reliable, if they're giving you good information. If they're not, what's their motivation? There's tons of us out there that just really love doing this, and we really like what we do, and it makes us happy. There's other individuals that are trying to sell you a product, be it their livestock, or a certain way of doing things, or sometimes it is literally certain products. They're like, hey, watch me and buy this handling system, or I'm just using that as an example, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that they're not giving you good information. You just have to be a responsible consumer and see if what people are giving you adds up. It is okay to ask why. And I tell people this all the time. It's very okay for you to ask why. If someone is willing to give you advice, if someone on a forum or in person or whatever tells you, you have to do this, it's okay to say why. Well, why is that? And if they don't know, that's a problem. And sometimes their answer may be something like, well, my veterinarian, who I really trust and who does a really good job, told me to do it that way. And that's what I've done, and it's worked for me. that's fine. But if you get some off the wall answer on a forum about a problem and it doesn't pass the sniff test, that is to say, something about it just doesn't seem right, it's okay to ask why. And if the individual can't explain themselves, then that's a problem, and that's something that you need to look out for. We had an individual earlier today that asked me. I had said, "Well, you need to get vitamin E," and they said, "Well, why?" And you can read that on Linessa Farms Tack Box. And we talked about all the benefits of vitamin E and how it helps with growth and development and sexual maturity and infection rates and all kinds of other stuff. Vitamin E, for example, goes along with selenium. Why? Well, when you take vitamin E and selenium together, vitamin E helps the body uptake and change the selenium into a more bioavailable form, and it helps to keep it from oxidating. So you may notice anytime you're given selenium, especially in like a shot, like for instance in Bosi, it's actually combined. It is selenium combined with vitamin E. That was another question that we got asked today. It was a why question. And my job as a provider of information is to give you that answer. And if you ask why and I don't have an answer, it's my responsibility to find it. And we run into that sometimes on the forum. As you guys and gals know, you may ask me a question, and if I don't know, I'll just be like, yeah, I have no idea. And I'll look it up and I'll get back with you. That's why we get paid. That's why we have a channel. That's why we do what we do, is to take the time to find the answers for you. There's a lot of individuals out there that are kind of the armchair warriors that are more than happy to tell you what they think, but it may not be correct. So just something to keep in mind. But the more people that we get from more different locations throughout the world, the more farms we go and visit, the more information we're all exposed to, the better we all are. Every time we do a farm interview, we learn something new that we either didn't know before or we didn't think about before. So there you go. And that's part of the driving force behind why we're getting so involved with going to the different farms and doing different farm interviews. Can you use silence on pregnant ewes? Yes. So I've read the literature on this. Here's the problem with any pharmaceutical. You run into issues with pharmaceuticals. The best answer is we don't want to give any pharmaceuticals that we don't absolutely have to any pregnant animals. But I assume when you're asked if we can help it, but I assume, when you're asking this question, what you're wanting to know is this medication going to hurt or injure this animal in any way? The evidence out there that's put out by the companies says no. Same thing with the Dectamax. Dectamax is in the ivermectin family. They say the answer is no. Can I guarantee that? No. Am I a veterinarian? Not even close. So you're always taking a risk anytime that you have to give a medication to a pregnant ewe or a pregnant doe. Now, with that being said, we know that there are medications out there that are very dangerous and very high risk to give to pregnant animals. Usually that medication happens in the first trimester, and we'll explain why that is here in just a moment. But we know that there are medications. For instance, valbazen. Valbazen's a great wormer, works good. It's one of the white wormers that we think of when we think of the white wormers in the white wormer family. Should not be given to pregnant animals. If you absolutely had to, you would most definitely want to avoid giving it in the first trimester. So, if you're asking about silence, I assume that you're dealing with possibly some kind of issue with lice or KEDS or mange. And so then you have a situation that you have to really look at kind of from a 30,000-foot view. Do I want you giving medications to a pregnant ewe or a pregnant doe? No, absolutely not. Shoot, if I could have it my way, none of us would have to give any medications to any of our animals any of the time. But you run into a situation where you're like, okay, what is the best answer? What's going to be best for the welfare of this animal? Is it going to be better for me to leave them with a lice load or a mange load while they're pregnant? No, that's probably going to be worse for them. Plus, you're setting other animals up for problems and all kinds of other things. So, you got to weigh your options, do the best that you can do, and just move forward from there. Remember, almost all medications, be it over the counter or prescription, can cause damage. Some individuals, they really like the diatomaceous earth. Diatomaceous earth can work if applied topically, that is to say, if it's just dusted onto the animal. Doesn't work if it's given orally. I'm sorry, it just doesn't. And when you understand how diatomaceous earth works, that you will know why it doesn't work if it's given orally. But diatomaceous earth has side effects as well. Diatomaceous earth is very, very irritating to the mucous membranes. It's very, very irritating to the respiratory tract. So you got to be careful with that too. If you're dusting your animals and you're breathing that stuff in, not only is it bad for the animal to breathe in, it's bad for you to breathe in, and it causes a lot of problems. So, all of these things have consequences. So over-the-counter drugs and prescription drugs, you need to educate yourself on all of those. So then we get into, okay, so what's the deal with the trimesters? So the trimesters, and this falls into the same category when we look at birth defects in human babies and other mammals, other animals, is usually a lot of the development, a lot of the things that are forming and being made are done during the first third or the first half of the development of that fetus as it's getting ready to be at full term and be born. So, what we find, generally speaking, is that if a medication or an external pressure that's put on this fetus occurs during that developmental stage, it sets that animal up for much higher risk of birth defects. Now, during the latter portions of the pregnancy, generally speaking, everything is developed. And at this point, we're just going through a growth process. So it doesn't always mean that, you're safe in the latter half of the pregnancy or you're not safe in the first trimester or whatever. I'm just trying to explain to you why that is. So sometimes if you really get into the deep weeds of the scientific literature and you're reading about medications, they may say, don't administer this drug during pregnancy, especially during the first trimester. And the reason for that is that's that developmental stage. So that's another reason why we want to make sure that we keep our animals as healthy as possible going into pregnancy. We want to really set them up for success as we go into pregnancy, because we want to do our best to try to have them kind of coast and ride through that pregnancy without, anything that we need to deal with, such as lice, worms, thriftiness, whatever. It's bad. It's really bad news to breed any animal, but in this case, we're talking about ewes and does. It's really bad news to breed ewes and does that are in really bad shape. If they go into pregnancy in bad shape, you could possibly really get yourself into a trick bag as you get later on in the pregnancy. The stress of the pregnancy itself may be a little bit too much for them, or you may find that they do have the babies and then they just completely fall apart on you. So, a lot to wrap your head around, a lot to think about, but valuable information nonetheless. Had an individual today that was asking us online. I haven't had a chance to respond to him yet, but he was asking us specifically about babies being born and what to do, how to intervene, when to intervene, and we're going to get to that here in just a second. I see that Cheryl just popped up here with a question. So Cheryl says, I have a doe that had quads last year. It was triplets as a first freshener. I tried and failed to supplement the smallest kid. I'm giving mom unlimited hay and 1.5 pounds of alfalfa pellets. So hay is not created equally, as you know. And I'm not blaming the hay. I'm just throwing that out there. So I personally feel, and you're going to run into issues here, trying not to stumble and fall all over myself. Here's what I do. So what I do is I try to give a set amount of hay per day to my animals. Not right, not wrong. I'm just different. If I need to supplement those animals, if I need to increase body condition and do things like that, I don't I don't throw more hay at them. I will supplement them with more grain, and the reason for that is I find is that, I think of my hay within reason as kind of their staple diet that they need to get. And I can vary the type of hay that I get. I can go with higher protein hay. I can go with, better cuttings, more palatable hay. I can go with more legumes like alfalfa, clover, things like that. But I find that if I really need to add a lot of energy to that animal's body, if I need to add more nutrition, more fats, things like that, the only way I can adequately get that is by giving them more supplementation in the form of grains. Now, this may be traditional grains like soybean. This may be soybean hulls, which is really good, very high in energy. It may involve top dressing their feed with some kind of high fat. So you're just going to have to see what works for you. Now, a lot of people run into this situation, and we run into this as well. You've got these fertile myrtles on your farm that they just love to have tons and tons of babies. And sometimes they can struggle to take care of them. Some of the best moms out there just really look like hell when it comes to weaning. It seems like no matter what you give them, everything goes into their milk production. I'll have ewes or does, and I know which ones they are, and I try to go into birthing as healthy and as big as I can get them, as long as I'm not getting them into that obese stage, because when they have those babies, I know they're going to start to fall apart on me. That is to say, everything they get, everything they put is going to be put into that milk and taking care of that baby. And it seems like the more I feed them, just the better milk they make. Babies always look great, and by the time weaning comes along, mom really looks bad. And you may run into a situation like that. If you're going to keep that mom around, the best thing that you can do is, and again, this is just my opinion, two things. One is, don't get hung up with the fact that you should be supplementing the runt. I think that's a mistake. I think that if you're going to supplement one of them, if you're going to completely pull one and keep it away from that mom, go ahead and pull the biggest, healthiest one. Depending on what you're doing for your farm, obviously there's some show people that are literally screaming at their computers right now. But if you're just raising them just for market, go ahead and pull the biggest, healthiest one. Either try to graft them to a different mom or make that the one that you're going to supplement. Your runt is actually going to do better if it's left on mom. The second thing is don't sit back and wait until one starts having a problem before you intervene. It's really hard to play catch up. And so what ends up happening is you get one that kind of falls behind, and then you start supplementing him, and then it never seems like they really catch up. If you know you're going to have this mom and she's always going to do this and she just can't quite handle that, then I would say, pick one right off the bat and start supplementing that baby. I personally think you're going to get better results if you completely pull that baby and try to graft it to another mom. That would be your best bet. If not, you can bottle feed. I've had limited success with supplementing individual babies. If you wanted to leave it on mom, then you can also supplement it on top of that. Smaller amounts more frequently through the day are going to do better for you than one large amount one time a day. But that's completely up to you. The other thing that you can do to help everybody out is to set up a free choice creep area. And that free choice creep area, for those of you that are like, I don't do creep, I don't want to do creep, hear me out. Even if you run a grain-free operation and you don't want to feed grain, that's perfectly fine. Then what you can do is you can still have a creep area set up for your lambs and for your goat kids, to where they can get away from the bigs, they can get into kind of their cushy little pad area, and you can give them a nice, like, third cutting hay that's very palatable and very easy for them to eat. And some water and maybe just a place to kind of hang out, and they'll go in there and they'll eat that hay. They won't have to fight the adults for it, and they'll still do better. So don't get caught up in the trap where you think, well, creep is only for grain feeding. No, 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 no. You can absolutely have a grain-free operation and feed creep. You're just going to feed better quality hay, and you're going to put it in an area where the adults can't get to it. So, uh, let's see, Cheryl. She keeps the weight on so far. She also gets 1.5 oats and 1.5 boss. How much grain can you work up to? You'd probably pass out if I told you what I've worked up to before. We've had show animals that have gotten as high as 8 pounds per head per day. Don't do that. Um, I think a good place to start is 1 pound per head per day. I think that's a great kicking off point. And then just monitor her body condition, feel those ribs, see how she's doing, see if she's holding her body weight. If she starts to fall apart on you a little bit, then up at 1/4 to 1/2 of a pound at a time, and just see how things go. Mom's going to go through her heaviest lactation or strongest lactation period, depending on the breed and depending on the mom. That's a trick question to answer, but generally it's going to be somewhere between the 2nd and 4th week after the baby was born, sometimes a little earlier, sometimes a little bit later. But then at some point they should start tapering down as they're getting farther and farther along in the pregnancy. So it's good that you're doing that. It's good that you have your creep area. I think you're doing everything right. I think you may just be in one of those situations where, like I said, you've got that fertile mom that has lots of babies. We had it. We had it this year. We have a range style sheep. I can't remember if she's a Rambouillet or a Columbia, and she has triplets and she can't take care of all of them. We have a Katahdin that tends to have triplets and she just can't support all of them. So you got to make a judgment call. Do I like this mom? Do I not? Do I want to keep her? Do I not? We always talk about culling, and culling is not so cut and dry now, is it? Because here's a perfect situation where we've got something that we like. We've got a good mom that's attentive and she has triplets. Well, shoot, that's great for genetics. Maybe she doesn't take care of them. Maybe she can't physically take care of them as well as we would like. So what do you do in that case? Well, you might be able to play genetics a little bit. You might be able to maybe breed one of her offspring to a heavier milker or something like that. So we always kind of talk about culling, but it's not always quite so simple as, black and white. This one produces and this one doesn't. We were out on Aaron Jennings' farm and we were talking to Aaron to kind of put that into perspective. We can talk a little bit about price. We were talking a little bit about sales earlier, and we would talk a little bit about price and getting what you pay for. You go to some of these farms and you see breeding stock going for thousands of dollars. But I'll tell you, for instance, I went out to Aaron Jennings' farm and we're looking at his South Downs. They all look fantastic. And I'm talking to him and he says, over the last 20 years, we've had over 4,000 ewes come through our operation. For them to get to the genetics that they're at now, they've had over 4,000 ewes come through their property. That is a lot of time. That is a lot of stuff to wade through and to figure out, and that goes into cost a lot. If you can go to a farm and they can say, we have really, really good genetics and we have proven genetics and here's the proof, look at what we have, then it is important to understand that it is going to cost you a little bit more money. I'm not telling you that you need to go out and spend thousands and thousands of dollars, but I will tell you that, the amount of time that these people put in does take time, and it does come out in the cost. And Cheryl, Dave has a question for you on there that you can answer whenever you get a chance. So yeah, you're gonna pay a little bit more with those genetics. I get asked a lot about line breeding. People say, is it okay to line breed? I have a male and maybe some females that's related to him. Is it okay to line breed? And my answer is, Are you 100% satisfied with the genetics that you have on your farm? When line breeding, generally speaking, is appropriate is when you see individuals that have a flock that they are ready to close. They are saying, I have everything that I want and everything that I need, and I don't want to change anything. I am happy with the genetics that I have, the size, shape, structure, protection from resistance to parasites and so on and so forth. And they don't want to bring new animals in. If you've only been raising livestock for 2 years and you're already looking at line breeding, I'm going to assume that one of two things is going on. Either you bought into livestock that was very, very superior and you are completely happy with what you have, or you just, for whatever reason, don't want to, maybe you're emotionally attached to the animals and you're like, well, I don't want to call because I don't want to get rid of them. And so I would say, a lot of these places, the longest you're going to see a male stay on a farm is maybe a couple of years. You're going to, I'm laughing at Dave's comment. If you're new to the game, if you're new to raising sheep and goats, then you can reasonably expect that you're going to go through a male maybe every couple of years. And it's sad, you get attached to some of these breeding stocks, to some of these males. I hate getting rid of males that I really like. We have a few that, they didn't necessarily do anything wrong. It's just, okay, I need to make some changes to my genetics. And at some point I'm keeping all the females that are related to this guy and I need to keep improving and doing better. And I certainly don't want to start inbreeding. So maybe you can co-op with other farms in your area. That's a great way to go about doing this. It takes the bite out of some of the higher costs of these breeding males as well. Perhaps you can coordinate with a friend that you have in your area that raises the same type of animals that you do. And you can say, hey, look, I'm going to buy a breeding male and you're going to buy a breeding male. And in a couple years, we're going to swap. And that can save you a lot of time and hassle. That's probably one of the biggest frustrations for individuals that are very first getting started. Maybe you buy 2 ewes and a ram. Well, what happens when those 2 ewes have daughters and you decide you're going to keep those daughters? What are you going to do now? Well, chances are, more than likely, you're going to have to look at bringing a new ram in, and that can be rather expensive. There are instances where you can go through getting artificial insemination done, laparoscopic artificial insemination, so on and so forth. That might pan out to be more profitable for you, and it may not. You're just going to have to crunch the numbers and see what it is that you want to do. So lice, keds, big problem. Big problems. We've been seeing a lot of that so far this spring, and that's normal. It's normal to see lice. It's normal to see mange, things like that this time of year. Just keep your eyes peeled for it. Every time you're going out to your pasture, every time you're going out to your dry lot, every time you're around your animals, you need to be looking at them. You need to be, I understand you're out there to have fun and we all want to spend time with our animals and kind of hang out, and that's cool, but there are certain things that you need to be looking at. If you're going to have your hands on them, look at as much as you possibly can. And so that's what I've taught people that work with me is I will say, for instance, an individual working for me may say, well, an animal was limping on his right front foot. And so I went and got the supplies and I went out there and I took a look at that foot. And my response to that will be, did you look at the other 3 feet? And they may say no. And I would say, well, that's a problem because they may have a subclinical infection or something going on that's not quite manifested to the point that they're limping yet. So if you got an animal that's got hoof rot on their front right foot, when you get your hands on them, you're already there. You already have your supplies. You're already giving them a health check. Why on earth would you not check the other 3 feet? Maybe they've got hoof rot in those 3 feet and they're starting, and you can do something to prevent it from getting worse. Also, if you've got your hands on them, gosh, why wouldn't you check their eyelids? I mean, you're there. It's as simple as taking your thumb up and pulling down their eyelid and looking to see if they're pale or have pallor. Um, so again, bundle your cares, go into the room with your patient. That's what we talk about in the hospital. You don't want to go in and see a patient and have to go in there 20 times. You want to go in there and you want to do everything that you can do. You want to do your assessment and give them their meds and do everything all at once. So same thing with your animals. Look at their eyes. Just from walking around, glance at their eyes, look at their ears, look at how their ears are set, look at how they're holding their head. Are they droopy? Do they have their head down? Do they have scours? That's that fancy talk for diarrhea. Um, it just sounds better than saying diarrhea. So scour was when they used to go through a field with a plow, like a bottom plow, and the soil would spin off and fly off the side of that plow. That was scouring, when they would get a plow really going and the soil was cooking off of it. And so that just came to be that's what they called diarrhea, I suppose. The sight of seeing diarrhea shooting out of an animal reminded them of soil flying off of a plow. So scours it is. But if you notice that an animal has scours, that's something that you want to take care of. Again, the sooner you get on these problems and the sooner you start taking steps to correct them, the less sick your animal is going to get and the better outcomes you are going to have. Sheep and goats, I'll tell you, for those of you that may be new, this is important for you. And for those of you that have been doing this for a while, you know that this is true, is there is no wait until tomorrow. You have to do it today. If you see a sick animal today, you have to treat that animal right now. You cannot go in and go to bed and say, well, maybe tomorrow I'll check on them. No, you are going to be in trouble. And chances are you're going to go out to a really sick animal or potentially a dead animal. Dave says we're having a new fence installed. The company is putting the electric wire on the inside of the fence. Is this normal? And how does this keep critters out of the pasture? So a good fence, generally speaking, so perfect fence. What's perfect fence look like? Well, here in Indiana, perfect fence looks like a perfect sheep and goat fence would be a woven wire fence that is sized for sheep and goats, with a small enough square that they can't stick their head through it. Sheep, not so much, but goats love to stick their head through the holes in fencing and woven wire fencing. And it's amazing with the curvature of their horns, what they'll do is, they'll stick their heads through, and then when they go to pull it back, those horns get caught on the woven wire and they can't pull their head back through. And then you come home from work and you see a whole fence line full of goats that have their heads stuck in the fence, and that gets real old real quick. There is woven wire fencing that has small enough squares that the animals can't stick their heads through. Then what you'll generally see is one hot strand at the top of the fence, that is to say above that woven wire. And then usually somewhere in the middle on the inside, you will see a hot wire as well. And that's in place. That will keep your animals from trying to climb your fence. And I'm not necessarily saying that they're trying to climb out, but goats especially love to put their feet up on woven wire fences and kind of stand up like, hey, look at me. Or maybe they're trying to look over the fence, or just because they're goats and that's what goats do. And over time, what it'll do is it'll cause your fence to sag and it will damage the fence itself. So that wire on the inside is very important, and it's to keep animals from climbing your fence. The wire on the top is to keep animals from jumping your fence. It works as a deterrent to keep your animals from jumping the fence. Some farms will put a hot wire along the bottom, and that will keep animals from trying to dig or go under. It depends on the livestock that you have. Some animals are known for going under fences. Some animals are known for going over fences. Hogs, for instance, are very well known for going under fences. So in those cases, you may see a hot wire very, very low to the ground. The problem with hot wires low to the ground is that you're setting yourself up for them to get shorted out as you get heavier weed loads and things like that. The best advice I can give anyone that has any fences at the beginning of the year, go out and spray a weed killer, or be it natural or a pesticide or whatever you decide you want to do, and spray the entire fence row. and keep the weeds down. If you don't want to do that, that's perfectly cool. And I understand that. In that case, you're going to need to be out there with a weed whacker as often as you can to keep those weeds from growing up and into your fence. So then the question is, what's going to keep the animals out, the coyotes out, or the whatever out? And the physical barrier of the fence itself, the hot wire along the top, and then some kind of livestock protection, usually. And that could be the form of a dog or, fill in the blank. But ultimately, no matter what you have up, you can get predators that can jump them, can find a way to go through, dig holes underneath it. It's not a perfect science. We're huge fans of livestock guardian dogs. Um, take it as you will. So we will leave it at that. Hopefully, that helps to answer your question. All right. Have you seen newborn kids struggle with finding the nipple? Yes. So, some babies are smarter than others. Some babies get up, man, and they're quick, and they go to nurse, and they're just good to go. It depends on the breed. It depends on the strength at birth. It depends on the mom. So what you'll notice, if you have a really experienced mom that's used to having babies, she will nudge that baby back there. As that baby goes back, she'll kind of sniff its bottom and she'll lick it and she'll stimulate that baby to suckle as it gets farther back. And that's very normal. If you want to irritate yourself, grab a hold of that baby and try to force it back there where the nipple is and try to get it to latch on. Good luck. The baby will more than likely pull in the opposite direction. Mom will get upset and get frazzled, and you'll have all kinds of problems. Probably one of the number one things that new people do too much is they just don't stay back. They get all hyperactive and they get in there and they start grabbing babies and pushing babies around, and they're like, oh my God, the baby's not nursing and mom's not doing this. And that. Baby and mom are born. You put them in the lambing jug or the kidding jug, and you sit back and you watch them and you just leave them alone. Now, obviously, there's situations where you're going to want to intervene. Obviously, I am not telling you to sit there and let your mom beat the snot out of that baby or kick the baby in the head or run over the baby or whatever. But sometimes it takes a little bit of time for mom and baby to figure out what in the heck is going on and to get going. If you just can't help yourself, you can gently place the baby back by where the nipple is and let it go. Just set it kind of back there and let it go and let it try to find the nipple. You can put it in that general area. That helps. If mom isn't overly attentive and mom isn't sniffing and nudging and doing things like that to the baby, then you can take a little bit of molasses and you can put a little bit of molasses on mom's nose, up in and all around her nose. And then you can put that molasses on top of the baby's head, on the crown of his head, and you can also put it back on his bottom. And that will stimulate the mom to lick the baby, and it'll also stimulate the mom to lick the baby's bottom when it's in the nursing position. If mom is kicking the baby off, now I like to check the bag. When mom has the babies, I like to feel the bag. Is the bag soft? Does the bag have milk? Can I get a little bit of milk out of the bag to make sure that she's, nursing appropriately? The other thing I like to do is take my finger and put my finger inside the baby's mouth. If you take your pointer finger and you put it inside the baby's mouth, you should notice two things. One, the baby should immediately start nursing on your finger. It'll just sit there and suck on your finger. The other thing is that baby's mouth should be very, very warm. If you put your finger in that baby's mouth and it's not nursing on your finger, or if the baby's mouth is very cold, you have a problem. And that's a bigger problem than we can get into right here on this without turning this into another hour-long segment. But if baby's nursing on your finger, baby's warm, everything's fine, you should be good. Just kind of try to chill out and do, the best that you can do. If you feel inside and that baby's teeth are razor sharp. Every once in a blue moon, this can happen. You may notice the mom is fine, and then as soon as the baby latches on, she kicks him in the head or tries to kick him off. You want to check that baby's teeth. They actually make a little teeth file that you can buy. I know Premier sells them and other people sell them. Sometimes those babies' teeth are very, very sharp. That's pretty rare, but it can happen. So that might be something that you want to look at as well. What else can I tell you? Well, I can tell you the way a lot of the show people do it. A lot of the show people don't have time to stand around and watch babies and make sure that they get going okay. And so, what a lot of these folks do is they will immediately milk the mom out once she has the baby. They'll get their little hand pump milker out, their utterly easy milker, and they'll milk out 8 ounces of colostrum out of each side, and they will literally tube these babies with it. They'll give it to them, they'll tube them, and they'll let them go. And that way they don't have to worry about it because the baby's got all the milk in its belly that it needs. They know that it got the colostrum. They know that the colostrum is split up evenly. And then they got hours now. You can walk away for 4 or 5 hours. And by then the baby's got, enough energy. It's up and nursing on its own. I am a fan of that. I think that's a good idea. I think there's a huge learning curve that you have to go through to get to that point. I think you have to know how to milk them out appropriately. I think you need to know how to tube a baby appropriately. But I can tell you, if you're timing your pregnancies to where you've got 40 or 50 ewes or does having babies at the same time, you don't have time to deal with that. And so tubing may be a lifesaver for you, because imagine you can tube that baby. Well, now I know that baby's got 8 ounces of colostrum in it. Shoot, I can walk away. I can come back in 5 hours, and at least I don't have to worry about it being dead or being, hypoglycemic or anything else. So, something for you to consider. But again, that's a hell of a learning curve. So something that you'll want to, something that you would want to consider. I was doing some research, and it could be a vitamin B1 deficiency. Any experience with this? So you run into this online all the time. If you want to get a slew of different answers, just go on a forum and be like, "Hey, my baby's having a hard time doing this or doing that," and you're going to get a whole slew of answers. So, for instance, gimmies for a baby not being able to find the nipple. What's the reality? Well, the reality is the baby is probably new. You probably got an inexperienced mom with an inexperienced baby. The baby's a little slow, and it's going to take it some time. But someone may be like, "Oh, well, the baby can't find the nipple because it's blind, because it's suffering from a vitamin B deficiency." Probably not. They may say, "Oh, well, it's got white muscle disease, and it needs more selenium and vitamin E because its muscle function isn't correct," and so on and so forth. Then you get other people that say, "Oh, well, the baby may be hypoglycemic, and you need to give it sugar, and you need to do this, and you need to do that." You know what? Start with and I'm not saying that it couldn't possibly be any of those other things. What I'm saying is, the chances are they just need a little bit of time. The best thing that baby can get is that mom's milk, and everything else will go from there. Do not start throwing medications at a newborn baby because you're not happy with as fast as it is starting to. As fast as you're saying, "Well, it's been a half an hour and it's not drinking milk, so I'm going to start shooting it up." Don't do that. Don't fall into that trap, because there's plenty of people that will tell you to do that, and they literally have no idea what they're talking about. I'm not saying that medications don't have a place. They do, but just be careful. Is an animal blind? I don't know. What would we do to check that? Well, if the animal is having eyesight problems, we can take the light on our phone. We can shine that light in their pupil and look for pupillary dilation. We can take our finger and we can start to move our finger towards the animal's eye and see if the animal blinks. If it's blinking, if you get a pupillary response, chances are you don't have a blind animal, and that's not something that you're dealing with. As far as being so profoundly deficient in nutrients or vitamins that you're getting neurological symptoms, or you're getting muscle weakness, not necessarily. It shouldn't be occurring if you're doing what you should be doing when that animal is pregnant. vitamin B, thiamine deficiencies, and other things can cause all kinds of problems. There's a sheath that goes around the nerve bundles in our body and in other mammals' bodies. It's called a myelin sheath. It's a coating that helps, you know, keep the nerve impulses conducting as well as possible. And if you have a vitamin B deficiency, specifically a thiamine deficiency, that can cause problems to where that myelin sheath starts to degrade, and then you start having experiences like poor eyesight and poor weakness, things like that in the hindquarters, poor muscle control. This is actually a problem that we experience when people are trying to treat their animals for coccidia, and they're using certain medications as a treatment for coccidia. Certain medications, actually, Corid, for example, actually works by inhibiting the coccidia's uptake of that specific vitamin B, and in doing so, it hampers the animal's ability to absorb that specific vitamin B, and then it causes all of these side effects. Um, so yeah, again, boy, wow, you can get into the deep weeds in a lot of this. Start with the most simple thing, work your way forward. It is okay to be stressed out with new babies. We get it. Most definitely not trying to beat you up on it. Just do the best that you can do, and go from there. Start simple, work your way to complex. If you do have questions, make sure that you are asking individuals that are giving you good, scientific backed information, or at least something that they can back up with someone else, that, like a veterinarian or something like that. Okay. Once you start grain feed, how often do you increase and at what rate? I'm always concerned of bloat or illness. So that's a great question. And bloat and illness is something that we never just want to turn animals loose on grain. So we get asked this question a lot when it comes to creep feeding. And the reason we get asked this question a lot is because creep feeding scares people, because they say, oh my God, if I give my babies, if I give my lambs or my goat kids unlimited, unfettered access to creep feed, they are going to overeat and they are going to get bloat and they're going to die. And my answer to that is it's all in the way that you manage it. If they always have that feed available, if that creep always has feed in it, they won't overeat. And why won't they overeat? Because they don't need to. They know that they don't need to. They know that whenever they go in there, there's going to be feed there and they're going to be able to get it. That's why we always try to feed our babies free choice creep feed, because we don't want them to go in and gorge themselves. That's when we start worrying about Clostridium rearing its ugly head, is when we have individuals that are going in and gorging themselves on a large amount of grain in a very high starchy grain in a very short amount of time. So by keeping that creep always full, you protect them from overeating. That's why creep gates are important, and that's why protecting your creep area from adults being able to break in there, jump a fence, whatever, is very important as well. You can experience bloating problems and death and things like that if one of your does or one of your ewes is able to squeeze her way through your creep gate, or maybe you have a low wall for your creep that they're able to jump over. They can most definitely get in there and eat all of that creep feed, and they can bloat or have other consequences, get scours real bad, get Clostridium, whatever, and they can die. So definitely something that you want to protect your animals against. If you're going to go to a new farm and pick up an animal, make sure that you ask the individual what they are feeding that animal. Whenever I get a baby that's leaving my farm and going to a new farm, I give them some of the feed. I mix my own feed, so I give them some of the feed that I'm feeding that baby so they can mix that in with their feed and slowly transition them. Please, please, please don't go like cold turkey from one feed to another. Chances are the animal's going to get gastrointestinal upset and it's going to get scours and you're going to have problems. So something for you to keep in mind. We also don't want to jump from different protein amounts at a very fast rate. So we don't want to go from 14% protein to 20% protein. That can be a problem as well. When we're looking at adults, 1/4 to 1/2 pound per head per day is a good transition. So let's say I had a ewe that I was giving 1.5 pounds per head per day to, and she was doing well on this feed, but I noticed her body condition is starting to lack. I've eliminated any other health issues that is causing this to happen. There's no worm load, there's no illness, somebody else isn't eating her food, so on and so forth. If she's on 1.5 pounds, I would consider bumping her up to 2 pounds uh, per day. I wouldn't go to 3 or whatever. I would give her a 1/2 pound more. Make sure that she's eating it in a controlled manner. Get her to slow down a little bit. If it's really dusty, it's okay to wet your feet a little bit. Make sure that it's not dusty, um, and then go from there. I would say maybe, my personal opinion, I would say no more often than every 4 to 5 days would I even consider increasing that at all. Safety dictates that you would increase their feed at the smallest level possible. So best answer would be, you may increase that animal's feed by 1/8 of a pound per day over a period of 4 days, to get where you need to go or whatever. So slow is always good. Mixing feed is always good. Just try to do your best. Hi, Thomas. Hello from Central North Carolina. Lots of watchers need to hit the like button. Well, I do appreciate that. I undervalued the like button when we first got started on YouTube, but apparently, with YouTube, the like button kind of helps dictate how many more people there. It's one of the many things in the YouTube algorithm that I don't understand, but it's going to help them to show our videos to other individuals. So, yeah. Ahmed, hello, my friend. Nice to see you. It's nice to have everybody on here. We greatly appreciate it. Never know how much to give and how you increase. So yeah, hopefully I answer both your questions for the babies and for the moms. So we are going to be back on track with having our live stream every Wednesday now. Going to line up some more individuals to come on here and talk with us. I think that having the live stream where we kind of do this one-on-one helps out sometimes, but it's also nice to get other individuals on to talk to you guys as well. If you haven't checked out some of our farm interviews, regardless if you raise sheep or goats, I think they do have value to them. So, don't turn your nose up if it's just a sheep video. Don't be like, oh, I raise a goat, so I'm not going to watch that. In many, many ways, raising the two species is very, very similar, with the exception of a few things like copper. But I think you can get a lot out of watching these different farms and learning what it is that they're doing. So if you're not a member of Linessa Farms Tack Box, I think you could check that out. It's on Facebook. If you're on Facebook, it's a nice, safe forum where you can go on and ask questions. If anybody is on there that's a bully or giving you a hard time or anything like that, we just boot them off. So you don't have to worry. Nice, great place for you to hang out and ask your questions. Very good questions tonight. Very excited to see a lot of you guys are growing and doing well. Our Kindig friends, I know you guys are getting ready to make the move with the goats. We're very excited for you. We talked to some of our people that have been with us for a long time, like Cheryl. We most definitely appreciate you on here as well. And then we've got new folks that I haven't seen before, or at least that I don't see very often, like Tom. Appreciate you. And then our friend Jonte. This is a great opportunity for you to learn things, and I'm glad that you're here, and I'm glad that you're asking questions. If you have questions, always ask. Chances are other people have questions too. So don't ever be shy. We like that you ask questions. We enjoy giving you answers. It's a learning experience for all of us. Plus, it keeps me on my toes, and it lets me know what you guys have going on, and it helps me determine what to make videos about. So thank you all very, very much. We really, really appreciate each and every one of you. With that being said, I'm Tim from Linessa Farms Specialty and Heirloom Livestock. Thanks for joining me again today, and I look forward to seeing all of you again next time.